Divine prophecy fulfilled now. Israel's miraculous journey into the sacred land of Gaza revealed. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the people of Israel, once bound in the harsh chains of Egypt, began their arduous journey toward the promised land, inhaling the fragrant air of hope. They marched under the determined guidance of Moses, a servant molded by divine purpose, who had witnessed firsthand the hand of God working wonders, the plagues that shook the mighty Pharaoh and the Red Sea that parted to offer them freedom. With hearts filled with the covenant promises made to their forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they traversed the barren wilderness. Yet the path was fraught with peril, as they faced relentless days under the scorching sun, weary bodies resisting despair. Their spirits were tormented by the taunts of the Philistines across the Gaza, who hurled insults and threats, sowing fear among the hopeful Israelites. While Moses led their feet forward, a young shepherd named Josiah, grappling with the weight of familial expectations, stood at the fringes of the camp. His heart raced with uncertainty as he watched the elders bathed in anxiety, contemplating the fierce trials ahead. Yet, Josiah had glimpsed divine miracles even in the depths of their weariness. He remembered the promised land flowing with milk and honey, and he began to wonder if he, too, was called to inspire his kin, much as Moses had done in Egypt. As they neared the Jordan River, the land of promise loomed dauntingly large, the horizon painted with the shadows of fear. Yet, God commanded Joshua, a new leader rising among them, to prepare the people for a crossing into the land that had long been foretold. Whispers of fear rippled through the camp like a sudden storm, as they gathered to witness what was to come. With intense anticipation and palpable dread, they observed Joshua commanding the waters of the Jordan. As they parted, a gasp arose within the assembly. Faith surged in their hearts. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. The Israelites strode onto the dry ground with renewed vigor, their faith elevated as they witnessed the manifestation of God's strength. Yet, the taunts of the Philistines echoed across the river, threatening to envelop their hope in despair. With every step forward, there arose the challenge of maintaining belief amidst opposition. And in the midst of their impending calamity stood the young David, a mere shepherd boy, who had heard of Goliath's loud and defiant echoes rising from Gaza, challenging the army of the living God. Armed only with his sling and unwavering faith, he sought counsel, but met skepticism at the hands of seasoned warriors. They doubted his capability, yet David felt the fierce calling to confront the embodiment of terror. His declaration pierced through the gloom. "The Lord will deliver me from this giant." As David prepared to stand against Goliath, anticipation crackled like lightning in the air. Josiah, standing nearby, felt the tension pulse through the camp, a moment charged with destiny. With all eyes upon him, and the fate of a nation suspended in silence, the echo of God's promise soared within their hearts, beckoning them into the sacred land. But what cost? As dawn broke over the valley, the tumultuous heart of Israel surged with a zeal born of divine anticipation. The Israelites prepared to witness a confrontation that could unravel the very fabric of the fear that ensnared them. They gathered in silent prayer, hearts raised to heaven, seeking fortitude for the young David, who stood resolute against the towering giant. The echo of their cries for help mixed with the fierce winds that swept through the camp, a poignant reminder that their journey was ordained by the Lord. "Be strong and courageous," Joshua urged, his voice cutting through the murmur like a sharpened sword. "For the battle belongs to the Lord. This day he shall prove his might." Behind David, A myriad of faces emerged, painted with doubt, yet glimmering with the slightest flicker of faith. Josiah's gaze was fixated on David, and in that moment he saw more than a boy. He saw a vessel of God's promise, armed with a spirit unyielding despite the odds. Inspired, Josiah whispered to himself, "Could it be him through whom we may yet know victory?" Goliath, a giant of Philistine valor, stepped forward, his armor glimmering menacingly under the sun, voice booming as he mocked the Israelites. "Am I a dog, that you come at me with sticks? Choose a champion, and let us end this in single combat. If he defeats me, we will serve you. But if I prevail, you shall be our servants." His derision struck at the very heart of Israel's newfound hope. Fear gripped the hearts of seasoned warriors. Their intrepid strength waned under the weight of that challenge. As they hoisted their shields and spears, doubt crept in, casting a shroud over their courage. Yet David stepped forward, bearing only a sling and 5 smooth stones. "You come against me with a sword, spear, and javelin," he called out, voice steady and unwavering. "But I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day he will deliver you into my hands." The words resonated like the peal of a trumpet, summoning courage where despair threatened to engulf the camp. The troops, once shuddering with fear, felt a glimmer of hope at David's boldness. As though a bridge connected their collective faith to the heavens, as the two warriors faced off, the ground beneath their feet vibrated with spiritual expectancy. The Israelites held their breath, witnessing a moment poised on the precipice of destiny. David hurled his stone, each heartbeat echoing a promise of victory, and the projectile found its mark striking Goliath squarely upon the forehead. With a thunderous crash, the giant fell, silencing the mocking laughter that had haunted Israel. Shouts of triumph erupted from the camp, a chorus of gratitude and astonishment ascending toward the heavens. The Lord had fought valiantly for his people, validating David's faith and igniting the flames of belief among the Israelites. As the Philistines turned and fled, fear coursing through their ranks, Josiah felt a surge within his spirit. Was this the signal of deliverance? He joined the chorus of victory, uniting with his brethren in exultation, the chains of despair broken at last. Amid the cries of joy, a whisper lingered in the air, a promise unfulfilled, a greater victory yet to come. But what they could not foresee was how this moment would shift the tides for Israel and the covenant unfolding before them. The heart of God's plan throbbed in every avenue of that sacred land, beckoning them further into his divine purposes. For the true journey, filled with trials and covenant faith, was far from over. The aftershocks of victory rippled through the camp, reverberating off the mountains that encircled them like a divine embrace. The Israelites, emboldened by David's triumph, surged forward with newfound fervor, their spirits buoyed by the sight of Goliath's lifeless body sprawled upon the valley floor. As they pressed into the remnants of the Philistine encampment, a shout of exultation rose from their lips, a rallying cry, for the God of Israel had vindicated his chosen people. "Let's pursue them," Joshua commanded, infusing the air with purpose as the warriors rallied behind him. "For the Lord has delivered our enemies into our hands. We shall take back what is ours." David, still clutching the sling that had become an emblem of his faith, stood tall among them. His heart swelled, not only with triumph, but with a profound understanding that the Almighty had orchestrated these events, revealing his sovereign plan. The air crackled with the energy of divine destiny, as God's favor shone like the sun upon the weary. Yet emboldened, faces of Israel, as they surged forward, the Philistines scattered, fear dancing in their hearts, panic throbbing in their veins. For the first time, the taunts of their giant had transformed into echoes of despair. The Israelites, emboldened by faith, chased after them as shadows of retribution. Among the fleeing Philistines, chaos reigned. Their once impenetrable formation crumbled as they cast aside armor and weapons, fleeing toward the coastal cities. Within the mess of discord, Abner, acting as a fierce wind at their backs, called out to his brothers, "Do not relent. The God of our fathers is with us." Meanwhile, Josiah gazed at David in awe, recognizing not just the boy who had struck down a giant, but a future king who would lead their people. "Is it possible," he murmured to himself, "that through this humble shepherd, the Lord's plans for Israel will unfold, revealing the lineage of a greater victory?" As they swept through the valleys, reclaiming lost ground, they passed the abandoned tents of the Philistines, each one a testament to the mighty hand of God in their favor. They collected spoils, gold, silver, and weapons, a tangible reminder of the Lord's promised provision. However, amidst the fervor, a silence fell over the pursuit as a vision pierced David's spirit. He glimpsed beyond the current battle. From within the hearts of the people, he sensed the longing for something greater, something that resided not in mere land or treasures, but in the very presence of the Almighty. "Brothers," David called out, halting their advance, "we must not forget that today we have fought for his name, but we must also seek his face. The spoils of this victory shall be offered unto the Lord, for it is he who has truly brought us forth." A murmuring agreement surged through the ranks, worship and reverence swelling up from each grateful heart. They collected their offerings, uniting in prayer, giving thanks to the God who had fought for them, even as the earth itself seemed to resound with worship. But in that moment of praise, God stirred within David a profound revelation. His fight was not merely for a nation. It was for a promise that spanned generations. The call to lead Israel was igniting within him, intertwining with the destiny of a king yet to come. Yet, a whisper of uncertainty lingered in the winds. The fervent pursuit of freedom from their oppressors could not erase the deep shadows that lay ahead. For Israel was destined for trials, and the covenant of faithfulness was only just beginning to unveil the depths of God's glorious plan. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the land, the sacred promise breathed in silence to reclaim not just a battle now won, but a nation, a holy heritage forged in the fires of future trials. The dawning of a new era was upon them, as God's sovereign purpose unraveled further, beckoning them forward into a destiny intertwined with his eternal promise. What lay ahead could only be known through faith, trust, and a heart that sought the Lord's will. Above all, as the sun set and darkened the hills, the echoes of victory still thundered in the hearts of the Israelites. They gathered around David, who now stood as more than just a shepherd. He was a vessel of the Lord's might. With fervent zeal, he declared to the assembled men, "Let us march onward, for the Lord our God has gone before us, striking fear into the hearts of our foes. We pursue not just to reclaim what is lost, but to fulfill the promises made to our forefathers." Joshua, ever the steadfast leader, nodded in agreement, rallying the troops with a fiery passion. "Indeed, we shall press forth. Let each of you remember the God who delivered the mighty into our hands. Him we shall honor, and from this day forth we shall proclaim his name throughout the land." Their spirits soared as they raised their swords, the glimmering steel a testament to their faith and resolve. With hearts ablaze, the Israelites set their sights on the horizon, eager to bring the remnants of the Philistine army to justice. Nightfall cloaked the land, but the light of hope blazed brightly in their chests. The pursuit led them to the outskirts of Gaza, where the echoes of the fleeing Philistines became a haunting wail. Upon their arrival, they discovered the remnants of their enemies, the fear of the Lord pressing upon them and mingling with the anguished cries of despair. It was there that David paused, sensing a heavy weight of promise entwined with their path. "Wait," he said, raising a hand as they approached the city gates. "We must seek the counsel of the Lord before we continue. For it is written, 'In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths.'" Proverbs 3 verse 6. We seek not just victory, but the Lord's will in our conquest. With reverence, the men formed a circle around David, kneeling upon the dust-laden earth. In a humble posture, they prayed for guidance, seeking clarity from above. The wind whispered, carrying their requests upward like sweet incense. And in that sacred moment, the Lord responded, his voice resounding in the depths of David's spirit. "Fear not, for I shall deliver Gaza into your hands. But remember, my son, every victory writes a story deeper than the battle fought. You shall face trials, yet I shall be with you." The words warmed David's heart, filling him with both awe and a peculiar trepidation. He shared the divine message with his warriors, and a holy hush fell upon the assembly. The call to faithfulness, albeit cloaked in uncertainty, ignited within them a divine courage. As dawn began to unfold, casting rays of golden light over the land, the Israelites moved like a mighty tide against the city of Gaza. The grand gates swung wide, revealing the remnants of Philistine valor now dwindled. The Israelites surged through the threshold, emboldened by divine promise. Within, they encountered the Philistine remnant, cowering in fear, for the whispers of David's name and the power of the God of Israel resounded within their hearts. Battle cries erupted, reverberating through the streets, as the Israelites encountered their oppressors with righteous fury, swift as the wings of an eagle. Yet amid the chaos, David felt an unsettling urge and awareness that this victory was more than vanquishing enemies. It was a pivotal moment in a greater unfolding of God's glorious plan. As Scripture foretold, Israel would not merely reclaim territory. Their legacy was interwoven with promises that echoed to generations yet unborn. The storm of battle raged, and as the dust settled, a new realization dawned upon them: this victory was but the beginning of many. Their steadfastness today would lay the groundwork for triumphs tomorrow, echoing the promise of the covenant God had established with their ancestors. In the distance, beyond Gaza, the horizon shifted, hinting at many more lands yet to be claimed. David's eyes narrowed, recognizing the breadth of what lay ahead, more promises to unfold, challenges to be faced. Would the hearts of his people remain steadfast? Would they trust in the unseen, just as the Lord had commanded? For with every ripple of victory came the promise of greater trials. What lay beyond the valley of Gaza remained shrouded in the intricacies of divine destiny, beckoning them deeper into the fabric of God's sovereign purpose. The journey had just begun, and the unfolding of a legacy, forged in trials and marked by grace, awaited them on the road ahead. The sun had risen fully, casting a warm glow over the battleground where valor had triumphed. The air was thick with the scent of dust and victory, and the sound of distant cries lingered like a sweet melody of divine promise fulfilled. David, now in the throes of a holy purpose, gathered his men around him once more, for the task ahead was daunting yet vital. "Men of Israel," he began, his voice rising above the murmurs, "today we have witnessed the hand of God. We have reclaimed Gaza, as he has promised, but this is merely the dawn of our journey. The Lord has set before us a path that we must tread with faith and courage. For it is written, 'The race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, but time and chance happen to them all.'" Ecclesiastes 9 verse 11. Let this victory remind us that our strength lies in the Lord. The Israelites nodded in agreement, their eyes reflecting newfound determination. They had faced fear in battle and emerged not just as victors, but as a united people, steadfast in their belief. As they gathered provisions and prepared to journey onward, a herald approached, breathless and alarmed. "My lord," he cried, "the news is swift and dire. The remnant of the Philistines have fled not just to the hills, but into the nearby cities, spreading tales of your greatness. They conspire not just to regroup, but seek alliances from afar." David's heart quickened. He understood that the victory at Gaza had sent ripples through the lands, a ripple that could either bring forth fear or bold alliances. "Then we must not delay. We shall march, driven by the same force that brought us here. Tell the men to prepare, for we shall pursue them still. Yet be mindful, my king," Joshua interjected, his brow furrowed with concern. for the enemy may now gather strength. Are we not to wait, regroup, and seek further counsel from the Lord?" David paused, considering Joshua's words. "Indeed, we shall ask the Lord for direction. We have seen his favor today, yet the future is veiled. Let's draw close as we did at Gaza and seek his face. For at this crossroads, every decision could alter the course of our people." The warriors knelt once more, surrounding David as he lifted his voice in supplication. "O Lord of hosts, guide us according to your will. We draw near, seeking the path you have ordained. Let us reflect your majesty, and may your wisdom fall upon us like the dew of heaven." Amid their fervent prayers, a great stillness fell. It was in that profound silence that the voice of the Lord echoed once more in David's spirit. "Rise, my chosen. Fear not, the foe you believe is greater, for I am the Lord of armies. Go forth, and I shall give you victory again, but heed this, understand the heart of my promise. In the trials ahead, your faith will be tested as gold, refined in the flame." As David imparted the divine revelation to his men, anticipation swelled among them. But just as the weight of prophecy settled in their hearts, a dust cloud arose in the distance, signaling the approach of their enemies. "Prepare yourselves," David shouted, the resolve of the Lord lifting them. "This day we shall find our path through the shadow of fear, as the righteous shall walk by faith and not by sight. We press forward, for our trust is in him alone." In that moment, a deeper truth unfurled within the hearts of the people of Israel. This journey, much like their forefathers, would be laden with trials meant to produce enduring faith and steadfast hearts. As they girded their loins for battle, they marched with a lingering sense that the true conquest was not merely physical, but a journey into the depths of God's own heart, a destiny awaiting them, intricately woven into the fabric of divine purpose. And so they pressed on, recognizing that the unfolding story of their nation and the world had just begun as they approached the looming horizon. They sensed that what waited ahead was not just a battle, but a revelation of God's ultimate plan, beyond their wildest imagination. What awaited them was the realization that God's promises, when walked in faith, break through the bounds of time, stretching into eternity and sealing their legacy as the children of the Most High. And as the dust cloud drew nearer, the hearts of the men quickened with both anticipation and trepidation. David stood resolute, his eyes fixed upon the horizon. "Rally, my brothers! Let's not forget the might of our God. For the battle may belong to our enemies, but the victory is sealed in heaven." With swords drawn and shields raised, they marched forth, the sound of their footsteps thundering like the roaring waves of the sea. The men of Israel, emboldened by their faith, advanced toward the Philistine encampment, where confusion had taken root among the enemy ranks. As they neared the city walls, the air crackled with an electric tension. David, sensing the Lord's hand upon him, called out to his commander, Joab, "What do you perceive, O warrior of Israel? Is the timing of the Lord upon us to strike?" Joab, his face marred with battle scars, surveyed the scene. "My king, the enemy is strong, but their hearts quake with fear. They are disheartened by tales of our victories, yet they are many. It is wise for us to seek the Lord's counsel in this moment." Once again, David bowed his head, calling upon the Lord for wisdom. "O God, our fortress and refuge, grant us insight. Reveal to us your will, and let our hearts be attuned to your voice, for you are our only strength." In the stillness that followed, a serene calm enveloped David, and again he heard the whisper of the Spirit. "Fear not, for upon this land I shall bring forth a mighty wave of deliverance. Sweep away every obstacle, and know that I am with you. Look for the signs." Renewed by this divine assurance, David turned to his men, a fire ignited in his heart. "Brothers, the Lord has spoken. He shall go before us like a mighty warrior, and the fate of the Philistines shall be sealed today." With a great shout, the Israelites surged toward the city, their battle cry echoing through the valley like the sound of many waters. As they breached the gates, an unseen force seemed to stir the very air around them. It was as if the breath of God fanned their flames of courage. Their swords became extensions of his will. As they poured into the city, the Philistines, bewildered by the oncoming tide of the faithful, turned in panic, their cohorts scattering like chaff before the wind. The victory was swift, and the city echoed with the cries of triumph as God's plan unfolded before their eyes. But in the midst of the tumult, a figure emerged, a champion among the fleeing Philistines, Goliath's brother, a giant unmatched in size and wrath. His presence struck fear into the hearts of many, yet David remained steadfast. With a heart full of faith, he called upon the name of the Lord, pledging his trust. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that dares defy the armies of the living God? David challenged, brandishing his sword with righteous fury, his heart curiously settled in the assurance of divine favor. As the clash between David and the giant unfolded, the onlookers held their breath. Could this be the moment of deliverance ordained? The echo of the past resonated in David's mind of a shepherd boy faced with extraordinary trials, fully aware that victory was not merely in the might of his arm, but the promise of the Almighty. Little did they know, as they fought for their lives, a greater battle raged in the heavens, a confrontation not just against giants of flesh and blood, but against the very darkness that sought to claim the hearts of Israel. In this moment, the divine tapestry of God's sovereignty drew tighter, signaling a revelation unforeseen. This battle was not merely to secure a territory, but to establish a legacy that would resonate through the ages. What would be revealed next with the giant's fall was not just the assurance of victory over enemies seen, but the unveiling of an eternal promise, the revelation that through struggle and strife, God's deliverance would create a lineage leading to the inheritance of the kingdom yet unborn, echoing through the ages. And as David faced the giant, the sun dipped low upon the horizon, casting a glow of crimson against the gathering storm clouds. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the weight of destiny filled the air. "Come to me, you foul spirit," David cried, his voice rising above the din of battle. "For today, your end shall declare the greatness of our God." With fearsome might, Goliath's brother stepped forward, his towering figure casting a shadow that loomed over many. Yet before David, he was but a mere adversary against the Lord's unfailing promise. As David steadied his grip on his sword, his heart raced not with fear, but with fierce conviction. God had delivered him from the paw of the lion and the bear. This giant would fall as well. The Philistine roared, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" As disdain dripped from his words like venom. But David, undeterred, replied with divine fervor, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." At these words, the winds shifted, the air thickened with holy anticipation as the very heavens bore witness to this pivotal moment. The ground beneath them seemed to vibrate with the promise of victory, while the soldiers of Israel clustered closer, their eyes wide with both hope and dread. And in that instant, David ran towards the giant, wielding his slingshot, the stone cool in his palm. "The battle is the Lord's. He will deliver you into our hands," he proclaimed, certainty ringing in his voice like the sound of a mighty trumpet. As the stone flew from his sling, time seemed to slow. The pointed projectile, a harbinger of divine judgment, struck the forehead of Goliath's brother with both precision and power. The giant staggered, his expression shifting from arrogance to disbelief, and then he fell, crashing to the ground like a fallen tree. The earth shook under his weight, marking the end of his defiance against the living God. And the men of Israel erupted in joyous cries, for the curse of fear that had once gripped their hearts was now replaced with overwhelming triumph. They surged forward, their faith igniting a fire across the battlefield. "Let's pursue them, for the Lord has given us the victory," David commanded, and the army of Israel charged ahead, invigorated by the hand of God upon their lives. The flight of the Philistines was not merely a retreat, but a rout. As their banners fell and their morale crumbled beneath the weight of Israel's newfound strength, as they swept through the city, victory was celebrated amid shouts and laughter. Yet amidst the rejoicing, shadows lingered. For David understood the battle had deeper significance. Each fallen giant was a testament to God's sovereignty over not just nations, but hearts. That night, as the stars twinkled above in silent approval, David gathered his men around him. Brothers, this day the Lord has been with us, not merely to grant victory over flesh and blood, but to remind us that he is fighting for our very souls. Today we have witnessed the unfolding of prophecy, the unfolding of his eternal plan. Yet, in the distance, a whisper of an ancient truth echoed, revealing a mystery yet to unfold. The lineage of the king is secured through blood, and a greater battle is yet at hand. What awaited the heart of Israel, and what of the covenant made long ages past? One thing remained unshaken: God's hand guided their path. And as they looked to the morrow, the question loomed heavy with divine promise. What further revelations of God's sovereign plan would arise from the ashes of this day? And as dawn broke upon the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and orange, David and his men stood upon the battlefield, still reverberating with the echoes of divine triumph. The morning light brought not only clarity, but an urging from the Spirit. For David sensed within him a deep stirring. God was preparing his people for a journey that would reshape their destiny. Men of Israel, David called, his voice resonating with purpose. Today we have conquered not just a giant, but the very fears that held us captive. The Lord has shown us the power of faith, and I believe he is leading us forth, not just to claim territory, but to fulfill the promises made to our forefathers. With renewed fervor, the army listened intently, their hearts beating in time with the mighty call of their leader. Though exhilarated by victory, a solemn understanding washed over them. They were not merely soldiers. They were chosen instruments in the hands of the Almighty. David's gaze turned towards the horizon, where the land of the Philistines awaited, a land that held both promise and peril. "Let us go forth to Gaza," he declared, invoking the name of the storied city known for its strongholds and ancient walls. "The Lord has commanded that we possess this land and drive out the darkness that lurks therein. For what is this battle, if not a declaration of God's unwavering promises to our ancestors, the very covenant he established with Abraham?" As the army stirred, murmurs of anticipation and fear buzzed among the soldiers. Many remembered the stories of old. The weight of Goliath's challenge had just been lifted, yet the fear of the Philistines lingered. But they looked upon their king, the man who had stood boldly before the giant, and felt emboldened. They began their march, their hearts united in a symphony of faith, moving like a tide towards Gaza. As they approached the outskirts, the sounds of Philistine war drums echoed in the distance, a grim reminder of the strength they faced. Yet, amidst the thundering of feet and the clashing of swords, David raised his voice in prayer. "O Lord, we seek your guidance in this hour. Show us the way and deliver us from the hands of our enemies." The ground that once belonged to their forebears now awaited reclamation, the tribes of Israel aligning under the banner of hope. The men of Judah, the valiant warriors of Benjamin, and the watchful tribes of Ephraim heeded the call of the king. As one, they advanced on a land that had cradled both promise and transgression. Yet, as they drew closer, the air thickened with tension. A storm brewed, not only above, but within the hearts surrounding David. What if their courage faltered? What if they faced a foe even mightier than Goliath? But amid the turmoil, the Lord spoke through David. "Fear not, for the battle belongs to God." As they approached the fortified city of Gaza, David sensed the weight of something profound. Each conquest held deeper significance, drawing them toward a glorious covenant they were yet to fulfill. And in that moment, hidden beneath the surface of their immediate struggle, the flicker of a promise ignited. A seat has been prepared, and through trials, the lineage of the eternal king shall be unveiled. What greater revelation awaited them in the heart of Gaza and what divine purpose burned within the sacred covenant. The eyes of Israel were set upon the horizon, where God's sovereign plan awaited, shrouded in both challenge and glory, beckoning them to embrace the coming epochs of faith and destiny. And so, as David and his valiant men approached the formidable walls of Gaza, a deep silence fell over the camp. The thrumming of war drums intensified, a foreboding hymn that shook the very ground beneath their feet. Yet, in the heart of that hushed moment, David raised his voice anew, proclaiming, "The Lord of hosts is with us. Do not be dismayed, for our trust in the Almighty will be our shield and our refuge." With those words ringing in their ears, the soldiers tightened their grips on their swords, emboldened by the fervor of their king. They formed their ranks, ready to press forward in faith, knowing that the mighty hand of God was upon them. And as the sun climbed higher, casting rays that gleamed off their shields, David sought the Lord in prayer. "O Lord, grant us victory today. Let the hearts of our enemies melt away like wax before the fire of your presence." It was then that God stirred within the spirit of David, revealing a strategy that would bewilder the minds of the Philistines. "Go, my warriors," he commanded, "circle the city, and on the seventh day, with trumpets and shouts, raise your voices as one to the heavens." His words held weight, an unusual tactic, yet one wrought from divine wisdom. The men of Israel obeyed, marching around the high walls of Gaza, their hearts driven not by fear, but by the promises of God made manifest through their leader. Day after day, they walked in silence, seeing the defiance of their opponents grow, even as the spirit within them strengthened. On the seventh day, at the break of dawn, David gathered the people of Israel together. Today is the day of our deliverance. God is moving among us. As we blow the trumpets and raise our voices, let the heavens echo the fervor of our hearts. With that, he raised his horn. The sounds of trumpets blared into the heavens like thunderous proclamations of praise. "Shout," David commanded, and the voices of Israel erupted in a mighty chorus, proclaiming the greatness of their God. For the Lord is good, and his steadfast love endures forever. At that moment, a tremor shook the very foundations of Gaza, an earthquake sent by the hand of God. The city, which once seemed impermeable, quaked under the divine decree. Stones rained from the walls, chaos ensued among the Philistines, and fear gripped their hearts. In the ensuing confusion, the soldiers of Israel charged with righteous fury, a tide of divine power propelling them forth. As they rushed into the city, David, filled with the Spirit, recognized the magnitude of this victory not just over an earthly opponent, but a fulfillment of promises made long ago. This day marks a turning point for Israel. Today, we not only deliver our people, but reclaim the land for the Lord. He declared amidst the roar of triumph. As the last of the enemy fell, and the city lay in ruins, David's heart was filled with awe. The covenant with God stirred deep within him, and he felt its weight more than ever. The promise of an eternal king was drawing closer, woven through their struggles and victories. Yet, as the dust settled and the spoils of victory became theirs, the Spirit whispered to David, hinting at greater mysteries yet to unfold. "Behold, what you have begun is but a shadow of the greater plan. For through this very triumph, the heart of my people shall be unveiled, and the lineage of an everlasting king shall emerge from the ashes of conflict." With that, David looked upon his men and saw renewed faith striking embers in their hearts. They were no longer simply warriors. They were now custodians of a divine promise. What further revelation awaited? The journey toward the ultimate fulfillment had only just begun, an eternal hope flickering in the distance as God's sovereign narrative unfolded. As the dust settled upon the conquered city of Gaza, the air was thick with the fragrance of victory and the deep reverberations of faith. The Israelites, now a people awakened, gathered around their leader David, whose spirit illuminated with divine purpose. His vision had extended beyond the day's triumph. He sensed something profound was unfolding, a destiny woven by the very hand of God himself. Brothers and warriors of Israel, David proclaimed, his voice a sonorous echo through the gathering. Today we have claimed not just land, but the very promises God made to our ancestors. Today he has shown that with faith as our sword, no wall can withstand his might. The hearts of the men surged at his words, freshly ignited by the Spirit. They understood this battle marked not merely the end of a conflict, but the dawn of a realization that was much grander. In their hands, they held not just spoils of the flesh, but had been entrusted with their spiritual inheritance, the covenant that bound their souls to the Almighty. Yet in the stillness of his heart, David felt the gravity of his calling. It extended beyond the glory of military victories. And now, we shall not linger in our celebration alone, for the Lord desires more than our triumphs. We must gather our offerings of praise, for it is He who has fought for us. Encouraged by his words, the people responded in unison, their hearts eagerly collecting tokens of gratitude, wheat, fruits, and precious metals to present before the Lord. As they laid their offerings at the altar, the heavens seemed to hold their breath. A deep silence enveloped them, and in that sacred space, light flickered through the haze, illuminating David's countenance as he sought the counsel of God. O Lord of hosts, he prayed with fervor, we dedicate the spoils of this victory to you. Let us forth. Let these victories be efforts in your name. And in that moment, the voice of God broke through, a whisper that danced upon the air like the rustling of leaves. David, my son, you have been faithful. Yet, know this, what has come forth today is but a reflection of my greater purpose. You shall lead my people, but not just to victories over giants. Your reign shall also unveil my eternal plan. David's heart beat heavy with understanding. He perceived the monumental weight of God's words. The giants they faced were but shadows of the trials to come. But through those trials, a lineage would emerge, a king whose throne would stretch into eternity. The people of Israel, witnessing David's charge, felt a renewal of their covenant with Yahweh. They stood as one, voices raised in unison, proclaiming their allegiance to the God who delivered and led them forth. For the Lord is good, and his steadfast love endures forever. Their praises soared towards the heavens, an offering of worship laced with commitment. As the cries of exultation echoed amidst the ruins, David caught sight of Josiah, once a timid boy, now transformed by faith into a burgeoning leader among them. Their eyes met, and in that gaze, a realization sparked. God had prepared hearts for this moment of destiny, weaving generations together in a tapestry of divine history. Amidst the jubilant crowd, David understood that Israel's journey would be marked with more truths yet to unravel. From that day, they would face trials that would test them. But now they stood united in faith, a people chosen for a purpose higher than mere territorial conquest. The promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob would echo through the ages, solidifying every victory against adversity as foundational stones for the legacy of a greater kingdom. They understood this was not their final destination, but merely a part of a singular journey toward a divine fulfillment that reached across generations. As the stars twinkled in the canopy of night, David declared, "Let us prepare to move forward. For every victory we claim in the name of the Lord shall point to the greater glory of his kingdom." The people resonated with his words. The fire of faith ignited anew as they moved together into the night, ready for the unfolding chapters of God's sovereign plan. And so, as they continued their journey, the Israelites held tight to this revelation. God was not merely their protector in battle. He was the architect of their destiny, calling them into a profound legacy, one that encircled the earth and extended to the hearts of generations yet to be revealed. Their faith would carry them through trials, and with each step, they would draw closer to the ultimate hope sealed in their covenant, the promise of a king, whole and eternal. As they marched onward, the echoes of their faith reverberated like the sound of thunder in the heavens, blessing the land they claimed and unfurling the depths of God's magnificent story, a tapestry woven with grace, love, and steadfast promise. Now, dear friend, behold the journey of faith laid before you. Do not miss these powerful accounts that stretch from the pages of our sacred history into your life today. Subscribe immediately to our channel to stay connected to God's Word and the endless stories of His faithfulness. Leave a like now to help spread God's truth through the algorithm. Comment below your revelations and how this biblical narrative has impacted your spiritual journey. Share instantly this testimony with at least 5 friends who need to experience the transformative power of God's narrative. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't wait even one more second. True believers understand the urgency of lifting voices in unison to reach more souls for Christ.